Good to go.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. You can't leave. Welcome to Senate Education. It is Tuesday, April 11th, 1:31. So I think we know the work ahead of us. For those watching, we have the miscellaneous education bill needs to leave here. We need to do 483. We have a school construction, some decision points on that for the number, and we also 486. Thank you. And we have universal school meals, and there's still some outstanding questions, but hopefully in the next week or so we'll be able to at least hope. I'm hoping we can move school meals sooner rather than later, and I'll look to all of you on questions. Did we ever hear back, Hayden, from the Catholic School Society, the opposition folks? No, okay, they were the only opposition.
Against school meals?
Against, somehow, I think it's something to do with they want the money, and if we don't give them the money, that's what my gut is. So. Yeah, because it basically, as I understand it, it follows the dollars. And if you're getting some public funds, your school can take part in it. But if you're not eligible for public funding, then you're likely not. So we'll hear from them. Senator Weeks wanted to hear, rightfully so, who's out there who's opposed to the universal school meals at all.
And if there were none, it's not.
And if there are none, they're not. This person may never show up. But that was the one opposition we did hear from either Ledge Council, or maybe it was representatives that came in to describe the bill. So, and that bill, as we know, will go down, and it'll be in appropriations. And I don't know. It was interesting to see the headline in, if you all saw it in North Dakota, where the legislature, ironically, we're looking at increasing salaries. They increased their salary and voted no to afford kids universal school meals. I guess it's a little tricky in terms of that optic for folks. North Dakota. I think they made a particular increase.
I did see that actually.
In their weekly meal allowance, something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm optimistic. It seems like seems like a lot of folks are feeling good about it. I'd love to finish that work this year.
Yeah.
But before we do that, we do need to return to driver's education. Joe, good to see you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. I'm glad to be here. Wish I could be in person. I apologize. It's been a full day.
It happens. Not a problem. So, Joe, we're going back to a conversation that, as you know, we had about a month or so ago, and we decided to hold on driver's education. We were going to put it in the miscellaneous education bill, but we decided to hold because seemed like there were some outstanding questions. And frankly, I'll be completely blunt and honest, it took me a little while to understand what the problem was that we were trying to solve here. And now I'm understanding it more in that it's, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, it is, the problem seems to be that we're trying to get more kids educated in terms of driver's education, but how to do it is the issue. And we asked the Agency of Education, I know, to talk with you. There still seems to be some butting of heads, but what I hate to see happen is for us to do nothing over the next few months, because frankly, it sounds like it's a real issue that we need to get kids educated. So we told our colleagues that they can expect, because a lot of our colleagues want us to do something on driver's education. And we did say on the Senate floor, stay tuned, folks. House miscellaneous education bill will likely have something in it. So if you could just help us now by reiterating your position and helping us understand if you got anywhere with the Agency of Education.
In meeting with Mr. Fisher, and brief because of his busy schedule, I basically took a couple of quick phone calls. We talked about it, and I can come down to the one issue that is holding this up. I think we could support something. I think we could work together in an open, transparent manner, but they want to suspend the rules where it states in school board rule, I'm going to say 2352, where a student is limited to only 1 hour of driving in vehicle per day. They want to suspend that, which opens it up to, it could be anywhere from that 1 hour, 6 hours in a day. It's just educationally, it just opposes all good educational practices, all safety practices. It really puts wear and tear on the student to try and get everything from learning to move the car to meeting the requirement of getting them onto a limited access or interstate highway all in one day. That's overwhelming for the student, not to say it's a long time in the car for the instructor. Yeah, we could work together, the proposal of working together to come up with something regional that would fit in the best practices that are out there as identified in the NTDAs. I think we can work something out and be happy to. But it just sets up a really bad situation for student learning to develop the skills over time to be a lifelong safe driver and to keep them safe on our highways.
You would help those who are watching now for the first time, and I know there got a couple hundred out there at least. What is it that's happening now versus what you want to have happen in terms of the hours?
Right now, for the hours, we're following the national guidelines in the NTDAS document, where it says that you have a concurrent program where you have classroom instruction happening, and within that same time period, you follow up with the in-car lesson that matches with that instruction. If you're in the commercial school, which I work in sometime privately, you do the lessons during the week, and on the weekend you do the 1 hour lesson with 2 students in the car, but they both get to drive for an hour with opportunities to switch back and forth. And then they can go after that lesson, practice. We go through the rotation for the next set of lessons as we go through. What I advocate with parents who ask me, well, should I do it private? Should I do it public? And I said, you're better off to do it public for free in the schools, where you can have that same learning spread over 9 or 18 weeks during a semester, because it gives more opportunity to practice and to better learn the habits. That's currently what's happening right now. To try and do the concepts in classroom, and then at some point, either immediately or not so immediately, do 6 hours of driving. It just is not a best practice. Students aren't going to learn well after the first hour. Matter of fact, you make it a point to, after about 20 or 30 minutes, to switch the lesson, switch the driver, so that they can observe some learning going on. And that is in the Agency of Education's website, in the driver education. It's a better practice. You get a better product, and really that's what we want. I would just say continue with that. We just need to work around how do we provide the classroom experience and make that concurrent with the driving experience.
Weeks.
So if I can, so I'm going to go back to the beginning and to Chairman Campion's point. The problem we're trying to solve over the course of the conversations about driver's training. I've heard two distinct issues. One is that the students need their class, they need their training course, and that there's a shortage of those courses across the state. So that's one problem I thought we might be trying to solve. The second problem, which I thought I heard early on, was that we lack the cadre of trainers to be out there to train the students. So I'm wondering if we're dealing with the fundamental problem, which is a lack of instructors, or the symptom, which is certain pools of students don't have driver's ed instruction available to them. I'm curious which problem we're trying to solve.
My understanding is that the proposal before you from the Agency of Education is to do a regional model that would probably allow in a short term to provide more driver education for more students. Meanwhile, what I know that VDTSEA, the Vermont Driver Traffic Safety Education Association, is working with these state colleges to reinstate the classes in the state. And quite frankly, I've been working with my counterparts at the national level so that we could provide the training. We do have a few people who could provide instruction. We don't have the model in-house that we could provide that for right now, since Keene State has closed their doors, and that there's just a small community college that's continuing on right now. So we do have some cadre of instructors. We'd like to grow that, but we could definitely work that out through training through the American Driver Traffic Safety Education Association. But we, right now it's working through the state university system to see how we can provide those classes.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Just for clarity, let me summarize what I think I heard. So this is really more about the pilot for a concentrated course of instruction for students. That's really the goal of.
Yes.
That's great. That's helpful.
That's what the proposal is from the Agency of Education.
Yeah. So you will have to take care of making the connections at the Vermont State Universities. That's not something we're going to get involved in, Joe, unless you come to us with a certain request, financial request or something like that. That's yours. So back to Senator Weeks' point, we're working on looking at this issue. There's a pool of students that don't have access to training. And that's our focus right now. You're on the same page?
Yes.
Okay. So now what's the difference between the agency's proposal and your proposal is largely the amount of hours in the car?
Not the amount of hours in the car, it's the concentration of the hours at one sitting.
Okay. And
they want to suspend the rules.
Hold on, Joe. Joe, hold on. What's the concentration of hours you want?
I would like to see us maintain an hour per student and take 2 students out in the car at a time, or you could go 3. That means somebody sitting for 3 hours in the car. Certainly could be done, but spread that over 5 to 6 weeks, like is currently done in most commercial programs, private programs. It's working out the logistics about that, but currently there's a lot of people who are paying a considerable amount of money, and that's how they're getting their driver educations. They show up to where the instructor is, they do their drive with their partner or partners, and then come back and they repeat that over, like I said, 5 to 6 weeks.
So what is the agency proposing? You'd like to maintain it 1 hour per student, spread out over 5 to 6 weeks. What is the agency telling us?
The agency is asking for a suspension in the rules that would allow them to go more than 1 hour per student, and that could be as much as 6 hours in one day. I can't see why, but that certainly is, if you were to suspend the rules, that is a potential outcome.
And this doesn't take into consideration anything that might happen when a kid's with his mom and dad, or a kid that might be with another licensed driver in the family that can also give them extra hours of time, correct?
Well, by graduated driver licensing laws, they are required to get 40 hours of practice with an adult outside of the 6 hours that they get in the professional setting, and 10 of those hours have to be at night. So that's still's got to be that's a minimum standard. There certainly could be more, but the parents still are responsible for providing that extra driving time to give the guided practice after we're done with some of the instruction.
So that's where you can start to get some of the memory experiences. You know, you're with your parents, you're getting that kind of practice in those muscle memory kinds of things, the 40 hours. And this is about the instruction. Is there some evidence that shows that this 6 hours per class, per student, in one setting is a big mistake? Do you have some evidence that you can show us? Has this been researched?
I would have to look for that, but I can personally, I can tell you this: after sitting 6 hours in the car doing instruction, you're absolutely wiped. You're tired, and a young novice driver who's getting so much information. Again, if you even sit through a lecture of 20 minutes, you begin to lose the educational value. I mean, we know that in the classroom setting, if you're not changing what's happening in the classroom after 20 minutes, the attention span is lost and the educational value is minimized.
Joe, could you live with, are you guys really stuck on that 1 hour, or could you live with 2 hours? It sounds like this is where you're going to be negotiating.
I've had discussions, and I think in the national standards that they will allow for up to 90 minutes. And I think given that this is a pilot project, if we were to go 90 minutes, 2 students, we could probably, and I'm not going to go out and say anything specifically, but I was talking with our director from ATSIA, but I think there is some language in the standards that would allow for the 90 minutes.
So just to confirm, in case Ted Fisher is watching, you support the pilot as written with 90 minutes for each student.
That's correct, allowing for another student to observe to get the other additional 6 hours of observation time that frankly hasn't been addressed, but that would have to be worked out with the group of people who are preparing this. But yes, I think we could do that.
Lindsay, do you want to say anything right now?
I'm gonna hold off and let Ted talk to it, because I think he's had a little bit more experience on this.
Okay, sure. And if you could reach out to Ted, I know he's not here today, but if you could send him a message, that would be great, because I'd love to wrap this up. Yeah. Okay. All right, well, this has been very helpful and productive from my standpoint. This shows us that you support the pilot with 90 minutes, and we'll see if the agency is willing to meet you on that committee. Other questions? Anything, concerns? Okay.
So theoretically,
Please,
that
yeah.
would take the on-road driver education to like 4 sections. Is that right? So if they need a total of 6 hours in the car, instead of whatever spread over whatever Joe said, 16 weeks or 18 weeks. Is that?
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Okay.
I had 5 to 6 weeks, but 1 hour.
So Joe, what's your the length of your normal driver's education on-road curriculum?
Okay. When I'm teaching commercially, I do a 6-week program with the 30 hours of classroom concurrent with my instruction, but I normally will take 2 students in the car for 2 hours, switching every 20 to 30 minutes so that I can cover the concepts that are part of my route plan or the lesson of the day, and do that for 6 weeks.
Okay, thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Joe. And I know Lindsay's going to talk to Ted. If you could talk to Ted, that would be great. And finalize this in the next 2 days and add it to the miscellaneous ed bill would be great.
I will do my best. I'll just be, if Ted is listening, or yes, if Ted's listening to this, I will be leaving shortly, as I will be officiating a track meet at Burlington High School this afternoon. So
Nice.
I may.
Joe, sorry, go ahead.
No problem. Just our schedules have been difficult to work around, and I will do my best.
Joe, I appreciate everything you do. I really appreciate that you're so committed to this work. It's very important. And it's about safety. And I appreciate that you really put your values in, as you should, in your experience and are sharing those with us. And I'm just hoping that we can get somewhere where we feel pretty good about all this. So thank you, Joe. And
Okay, I will do my best. Thank you.
thank you. Thank Barbara as well. Okay, I think we're good. I think we're in a good spot. Okay. Right, everybody feels like, yeah. Great. Ms. Cunningham,
Hi.
welcome to Senate Education. Why don't you, if you're okay with it, join us at the end of the table?
Yeah, thank you.
I know that you are a constituent of Senator Hewitt.
Yes.
That's great, great. Well, we're thrilled you're here.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you guys for having me today.
Okay, and you're a senior at Rice Memorial High
I'm
School.
a junior.
You're a junior at Rice Memorial High School.
Yes.
And you're here to talk to us about an act relating to school construction, and you have been involved. Rice Memorial High School, that's a private Catholic school, right?
Yes.
Okay,
That is correct.
so please have a seat and tell us a little bit about your project, why you took on this work,
Yeah.
and share with us some of the information that you have learned.
So I know I sent you guys the slideshow, but
Yeah.
do you mind if I present it?
Not at all.
Okay, that was super helpful. Should I use my computer to do so? How would you like that?
We have Paige here who can
Have been presented. If you want.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Share with the right slides. If you have the right side. Okay, beautiful. And can I just tell you when to click on?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm honored to be here with you today. My name is Hannah Cunningham. I'm a junior in high school and have been looking into what I call the school building construction crisis for about over a year now. I published an article on the repercussions of South Burlington's failed construction bond in Vermont Digger, and I started my own website called Build Up Vermont, documenting schools across Vermont to raise awareness about the deteriorating conditions of these school buildings. There are two different sections in the bill H486. The first is the school construction issue, and the second is the PCB issue. I propose the bill is separated into two bills. Although there is overlap, these are fundamentally two different issues. The school construction portion of the bill cannot be held up if there is debate around the PCB section. School construction is extremely pressing and can't be put on hold as it has been for the past 16 years. After Vermont suspended state construction funding for schools in 2007 through Act and Resolve number 52, section 36, many schools across the state have struggled to rebuild their infrastructure as it falls apart due to monetary constraints. The majority of Vermont schools were built in the 1950s and 60s. And because of this, as I'm sure you all know, we are facing a statewide issue where many of these buildings are deteriorating at the same time. Now, section 1, I would like to focus on. It creates the School Construction Aid Task Force to examine, evaluate, and report on issues relating to the school construction aid. This is great, but more needs to be done at a more urgent pace. Specifically, the bill should include a clause requiring the task force to submit their suggestions for a plan of action in the future. I'm going to show you some of the many things this task force is going to find in using two schools as examples. The main problems I've identified are a lack of space and unsafe systems.
And Ms. Cunningham, do we have your written testimony? Yeah.
I sent a summary of it, but I can send along the actual
You can do it
written one.
afterward. Yeah, no, you're doing a great job.
Okay, thank you. So the rural school of Danville, I don't know if you know it, it's kind of in Vermont, rural, could not afford the $70 million needed for essential repairs. One example of this is the main electrical panel that was built in 1969. If one part breaks, the entire school will lose electricity and the whole electrical system will have to be removed because it is too old to be fixed. Now this electrical panel is so old it cannot be tested like yearly either. And so if you look up here, this is a smaller electrical panel demonstrating another problem with their electrical system. As you can see here, the cubbies around it. These electrical panels are very, very easy to get into. and they create a hazard. So these are around pre-K classrooms. And that is at a, preschoolers can reach that panel.
So that's in a pre-K classroom.
Not inside,
Right,
but in the
oh, sorry, in the
hallway.
cubby area, yeah.
There's pre-K classrooms and a couple of kindergarten
And this
classrooms.
is Danville.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Another problem with Danville is the lack of space. Here, you can see the Spanish and French classroom. It's in an oversized closet. Note the lack of windows and ventilation. And then,
There are no, just,
There
this
are
is
no
important, so
windows.
this is, there's no windows at all in that space.
yeah, and they put in a fan to try to get some air circulating.
Thank you.
And I'm standing at the back of the room, so you can see all of the desks.
And it's not Cunningham again, Danville?
Danville, yes. And then, here you can see a guidance counselor's office in a closet. So they don't have space for guidance offices, so they put them in the remaining closets that they have. And that, what you're seeing there, that's not me trying to make it look smaller than it is. That is the size of that office. And there are no windows. There's an overhead light, but those are the conditions. 13-year student Lily Clark, who I spent a lot of time talking with, spent years sitting in hallways during her study halls and in her car. This is one of the closets that she would retreat to get her work done quietly. There's no space to have study halls. She would often spend time sitting in the science hallway or in this closet, which is the only open closet that there is, and it's also their school store. But as you can see, not conducive to effective learning. She decided for her senior project that she would build study spaces for high school, but the only problem is that there is no space to do so. In rural towns such as Danville, the deteriorating building affects not only the students, but the community as well. Their principal, David Schilling, explained one unique tradition, saying that every year, all of the maple syrup producers got together at the school, had dinner, and talked about the upcoming sugaring season. This really shows how the school is the heartbeat of the town. It's one of the only buildings big enough to hold these larger community events.
It's an old building too, right?
It's very old.
Yeah,
It was built in the 30s.
Okay, in the 30s.
Yes. The small tax base cannot afford the $70 million needed to fix the basic construction needs. This is South Burlington now. So
And this is today's South Burlington?
yeah, so I took
Okay.
this photo in January. All of these photos have been taken in 2023 by myself.
At the Macy's building.
This is so South
No, I'm
Burlington
sorry,
is
this
on
is, I'm sorry,
Macy's.
that's right.
Yeah. South Burlington faces a similar situation. Their $209.6 million bond to address construction issues and accommodate for growth failed in 2020. The school lacks sprinklers, students are eating in hallways, many of the classrooms are out of compliance with the ADA, and the school needs more space for students. As you can see here, they have tables set up all around the school because despite the fact that they have two cafeterias, this is still not enough space for everyone to eat lunch. They have multiple lunch periods, still not enough space. So these are overflow and students will sit in the hallways during lunchtime. And if you scroll down, this is a picture I took during lunch. This is in the lobby of South Burlington, note the piano. And as you can see, it's pretty busy and everything, it's just all the students are out in the hallways at lunchtime because there's not enough space in the cafeterias. And if you scroll down, you can see this is another space students will retreat to eat lunch. So because there is not enough space, students will eat lunch under the stairs. And for reference, this is on the left. There's an image of those stairs being used for a normal purpose in 1962.
When was the school made or constructed?
I believe it was in the 50s. But don't fact check.
I was
Yeah.
ballpark.
Yeah. There needs to be a greater and faster call to action. This is not a project that can be drawn out for a significant amount of time. Kids are going through these school systems right now, as you can see. If we want to draw families into Vermont, we need strong school buildings. If we want kids growing up in Vermont to stay, raise families, and participate in our workforce, we need strong school buildings. In the long run, taking action urgently will have a greater impact on not just Vermont students and families, but on our economy. This should be a first priority issue and it should not be drawn out. Thank you for having me today.
Wow, all right, so I guess I'm vice chair, so I'm in charge right now until it gets back to I got 3 seconds. I got
Anarchy in here.
Let's take it up. So first of all, thank you. Please continue to raise awareness around this critical issue because we need student voice and yours is one of the loudest out there. So please keep it up. You, I liked your photos of South Burlington. You did not show the bathrooms. I've recently
Did not
seen
show
a
the
video in the girls' bathroom where only one sink works and the doors are falling off.
Do you want to see a photo? of this?
I've
have
seen
a photo.
they're being duct taped to stay on.
Yeah.
But no, the problems are vast for sure.
Yes.
So I wanted to say that I just actually, this is so timely because I just came out of a meeting where we were talking about building a new prison, which as important as that may be, one of the things that was said at the meeting was, well, you know, it's really important that we humanize the folks in the prison system and we give them rooms with windows, colors on the walls and fresh air. And absolutely true, but I had to raise my hand because that photo that you showed at the Danville School was exactly what I had to say, which is, let's not forget we have students in spaces with no natural light, no fresh air, no colors on the wall, dehumanizing spaces, sewers backing up, old HVAC, like this is important. It's an upstream investment that we all need to, I just want to keep bringing it back around because students often can't speak for themselves, so it's really important that we speak for children. So I just, again, want to thank you for your advocacy work on this. And I do want to hear a little bit more about what you were proposing. Are you also aware that there's going to be a big study finding coming out in October, Lindsay? Do you think that's still
Yeah, I am aware of that,
right?
yeah.
Okay. So you just think that we should, that study committee this summer should be working on a more comprehensive plan of action?
Yeah, I think if we just keep doing studies, that's great, but I think at some point there needs to be an end goal and a plan for action, and I think just establishing that in the bill is really important, because then you have an end date to say, hey, this is what the experts who have been studying this recommend we do and take action on, instead of after the study comes out, we then spend multiple more years working towards finding a plan of action.
Okay.
So again, just to be clear, the plan is really to take the condition of the schools and then prioritize statewide.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's Danville, South Burlington, they all get stacked up against each other. That's going to take time.
No.
That is a legitimate study.
Mhm.
I know it's frustrating, but you know, just to kind of bring it in perspective, that's the drill that has to be done because everybody's school is a priority.
Yeah.
It's the tough choice.
What got you excited about it? What was it that motivated? Because I'm assuming Rice is not in that condition.
It's not dealing with the same stuff.
It's not, you're not dealing. So here you are in a school that's not dealing with it. What got you interested in this?
So I actually started at VHS.
Okay.
Yeah, and I moved
Okay, that's
right
interesting.
due to those conditions. And I just have a lot of different friends from different schools.
Fair.
So I would start kind of asking questions. You know, you go to these schools for different events and you see the condition these schools are in. And then I started looking on kind of the bills around it and saw this thing in 2007. And I realized that a lot of people didn't know about it. And I
The
started,
school construction was
Yeah.
not that funding.
Mhm.
Yeah.
and so I started just having conversations with a lot of different people, and a lot of people were surprised when I was bringing up that we're the only state in the Northeast that doesn't have a program for this. So we found this.
Your photojournalism, and that's really is really helpful. I mean, it really does bring to life what we've heard. We can't get around to all the schools. We certainly have heard from Senator Gulick's been a leader on this. We've heard from other people that have real concerns, and we also all know our schools. But this kind of photojournalism really does bring it home and helps us to really understand the problem. Yeah, so really good work. Other questions for Ms. Cunningham? Yeah, great. And hope you'll keep it up.
Thank you so much. I will, definitely.
And I think, there is a voice, your voice, I think, could also, should be heard in other committees, just something to think about. Appropriations is going to be working with us. I know the chair of appropriations is interested I know everybody's interested in this issue. And but maybe not to the degree that we all need to be. So, great work.
It's great, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Senator Gulick.
No, if we have a press conference, we'll invite you for sure. And when you send your testimony to Hayden, can you also send the name of your website?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much.
Would you like me in the written testimony to include the pictures so you can get a sense of when I talk about what picture?
Whatever works best for you, that would be great.
Okay.
And it would help us to remember which school is which school. And I think it's really great that you did a rural school and an urban school.
Yeah.
And I would just encourage you, I know you're a busy person, but keep snapping.
Yeah, the plan is to go around to more schools.
This is sort of kind of tough love, we all want this change, but we've got to get it more and more in people's
Mhm.
sort of front and center.
Definitely, yeah. Well, thank you
love
guys
is
so
that
much,
right?
yeah. Yeah, that works.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ms. Cunningham.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Nana.
Great
All right,
talking
great to see you.
You too.
Great work. Yeah, we're just waiting for Beth St. James on miscellaneous education. So she'll get her